back to Fight Capital, where we enter the ring of combat sports business. I'm your host, Ryan Rappaport. Today, I'm joined by Daria Albers, a renowned mental performance coach and former professional kickboxer. She works with top-ranked combat sports athletes, bringing with a profound understanding of the psychological and physical demands of combat sports. She founded the Mindful Athlete Program, otherwise known as MAP, a mindfulness-based program designed to enhance mental resilience and performance in athletes. Her unique approach integrates her extensive background in psychology, physical therapy, and firsthand combat experience to help fighters overcome mental barriers and activate peak performance. Thanks for joining me today, Daria. How are you and where are you joining from?
Thank you very much for having me, Ryan. Nice to see you here. And today I'm joining from Poland.
Well, we were already talking about how we matched this morning. Always shout out to Venom.
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan. I have a variation of that hoodie. I was just checking. I was like, do I have that same one? No, close to it though. But no, I was excited to chat with you. I'm a big believer in mental performance and how that kind of helps us push our barriers forward. I'm just curious, what took you on this journey of the Mindful Athlete Program, and how does that really help the specific needs of how combat sports athletes are compared to other athletes in other disciplines?
You know that my journey is actually, if I would have planned it, couldn't have planned it better. I think honestly, God, the universe really, really took me on a journey. As you said it already, I was a professional fighter, and I started fighting. It's 25 years ago. I'm 40 now. So around that time, it's quite a bit. It was a different scene, right? Fighting was different than now, and we didn't never speak about mental performance. You just sparred, right? Hard sparring, which is good because you made it tough, right? We are the old generation, not that we feel old, but we are the old generation. You know what? When I turned pro, I pretty quickly realized that it's a mental game. It's psychology, and I struggled with it because I was very, very technical, and they still say definitely one of the best kickboxers in the world when it comes to technique. But then sometimes when my mind was great, walked through the fight. When my mind was not great, oh my God, it was a struggle, right? And just also, I didn't enjoy. Now when I work with my athletes, it's a whole process, it's a journey, right? And you partly want to enjoy it also. It's tough, but also you want to enjoy it. And I didn't enjoy it that much. And I feel that that's a big chunk of your career, right? 12, 15 years of professional fighting that you didn't enjoy. And I talked to other UFC fighters, they had the same. So in the evolution of the sport, right, we all evolved. And I'm a striking coach also, so I do striking for MMA. So I train most of my fighters in striking, and I'm the mental performance coach. And when you're on the mat, right, when you see it in sparring, when you go out with them, I'm cornering them. As a mental performance coach, you not always go with them, but as a striking coach, obviously, you do. You see it, right? You see how much our performance is based on our mindset, right? Everything is a state of mind, right? You heard about that, right? That sentence, and it's true. And I realized it quickly especially when I became also a coach, because I saw it's not just me. It's the other athletes too. And then I had to pick it up, and I went to do psychology and put it all together. And now we came to the MAP.
Well, I've seen you in the corner of some up-and-coming and top-ranked UFC athletes like Ivana Petrovic, Marcin Parachino. You can just talk a little bit about some of those mental performance metrics that you're looking at to help enhance the combat sports athletes through MAP?
Maybe let's not say through MAP, because MAP is just one of my programs, right? There's the work with an athlete on that level, right? I work with Blachowicz, I work with Mamed Khalidov here in Europe on some of the top levels. Guys with Gamrot, number 5 in the UFC right now. So I work with, and also as a striking coach, I trained for a long time in the States. So I trained alongside Kamaru Usman and Sterling and Merab, right? We all know each other for a long time. And so what I'm doing is not just MAP is one of my programs, right? It's a Mindful Athlete program. It's a mental skills training, which I believe basic mental skills everybody needs inside and outside the sport, right? And I know we need to bring it into schools for kids, right? Look, we're born with this brain. It's a genius brain, but it can be absolute a terrorist. And we'll never learn about it. We never know how to use it. So MAP is part of my work, but my work, please it's deep, right? When you are a coach, I always say I'm also a mental performance coach, of course. I'm also a striking coach, but at the end, by my heart, I'm a coach, right? I'm here, and as Cas D'Amato always said, right? You discover and uncover, and that process. I love this. By the way, Cas D'Amato is one of my favorite role models. I love this man. I always say I want to be the female Cas D'Amato. And
Yeah.
in order to do so, it's not just my work is not just based on pure psychology or pure striking. It's the whole thing. Elite athletes, like I work with Bohovic also, like top level athletes, right? That work goes deep, right? And it's very, very individual from fighter to fighter. There are certain mental skills, of course, every fighter needs, like mindfulness, definitely, right? Mindfulness is a great, great, great tool and state. It's not even a tool, it's a state to have. Of course, attention training, emotional regulation, right? Different focus styles, understanding your mind, observing your mind, but also having a better relationships to your mind, right? Understanding the mind-body connection, how the mind influences the body, but also on the other side, how the body influences the mind. All of that is mental skills training, right? It's the base of everything. If you don't have that, how the heck are you supposed to perform under pressure on the highest level? And but it's not just this, right? So my work also, especially on elite level athletes, is a lot about the process and purpose orientation, right? What is your purpose? What is your meaning? Right? This is a lot of work I'm doing with them, because when we with them, not for them, with them. So when we want to step into our peak performance and our peak potential, right, we need our purpose. That's a long, crazy, hard career in MMA. But also, I work with the special operation forces, right? Same thing. It's tough. There are tough moments in those careers, and you have to have a bigger meaning and a purpose in it, and you have to be focused on the process instead of always performance metrics. So what you say, performance metrics, coming back to it, it's, of course, we want to win fights, right? That's, yeah, of course, right? It's a highly competitive sport. If you go out there with Gamrot, you ask Gamrot, he said that's his only thing. I want to win and dominate, right? And I love it. That's why he is where he is, right? But along the journey, right, you need to refocus also on purpose, on process, right? Being really understanding your journey, understanding your place and your position in that journey, who you are. So that work is super deep, especially when you're connected with striking then, right? So I spent hours of hours with them on the mat and off the mat. And I think that's why I'm successful in my job. I give my heart to them. I give my heart to the sport. The sport built me, and I give it back. So it's a long answer, I know, but it's not just mental skill training. It's this whole journey.
Well, long answer, but not an easy question to ask either, because like you said, there's so many parts to that. My father is a Zen
Yes.
Buddhist teacher, and he actually has this
Wow.
very strict. Yeah, well, I'm lucky to have grown up with that, but still to this day, and even him, it's a practice, right? It's a long years and years of like tuning and learning and asking yourself those hard questions. And huge fan. I'm a huge fan of Jan. I was at a UFC 298 and got to see Gamrot in live in the flesh dominating. It's always interesting to me. And with all these top level athletes, I see you're working with boxers, you're working with kickboxers, you're working with MMA athletes. You mentioned special forces. Is there a particular success story that you've seen where this work has really helped improve those athletes or in an individual's performance?
In the last 3-4 years, a lot of athletes said in the interviews, right, that I saved their life, changed their lives. Like they expressed a lot of love to me. So there's many really great stories, which mostly I will tell you one, but most of the stories is really about the transformation they've done, understanding that there's a deeper meaning to it. So most of my athletes express that topic mostly, but I have one story which really, for me personal also, not just as a coach, me as little Daria, was extremely moving, was Mamed Khalidov, right? Mamed Khalidov is, right now, he's 43 years old. He's a Chechenian who lives in Poland, and he is a legend of MMA, especially here in Poland or also in Europe. Legendary. He built, especially the MMA in Poland. Him and 2-3 other guys built the whole scene in Poland. So legendary fighter, a man with one of those people when you look at, it's like, wow, there's the champion. There is the man with the big, strong energy and calm, and there's just something about him, right? And I never, we knew each other, but we didn't have a lot of connection. And he followed me, my work, and sometimes commented something. And then one day on the event, I saw him, and I was like, I'm like a fangirl, right? And still, of course, right? I'm from MMA from the beginning. Even when it's funny, right? I still feel like a fangirl sometimes when I see our legends, because they built our sport. We were looking as little fighters. Even when I sometimes have to fight them now as a coach, no problem. But I can be the coach. When we fight, we fight. But I'm back to be a fangirl because, right? That's the love I have for the sport, right? And so Mamed was one of them. And I went over and I said to him, like, Mamed, it's such a pleasure to meet you. And I don't know if you know who I am. I'm Daria. And he looked around and he's like, yeah, of course I know who you are. I follow your work. And we started talking. And then out of this conversation, I never knew, because actually my Polish now it's good, but I was born in Poland, but I never lived here. So I never followed his story. And sorry.
No worries. Yeah, it always comes through the computer. That's what my fiance is, like the only person who I don't have blocked on Do Not Disturb, and so she calls me sometimes and does the same thing. So I'll edit that out too. No worries. No problem.
So I sat down to Mamed, and we had this talk, and then he told me about his story. Right, I always saw those fights, this amazing man, the legend, and he told me that he suffered for many years, or suffers in that moment still, depression and anxiety. And strong, and that he tried to work it out, and he said the demons are strong. He went to Chechenian war, right? A lot of traumatic experiences. He said to me that day, okay, I have a few weeks for a Polish event at KSW, 60,000 people, one of the biggest events we had here in Europe. And he's like, do you think you can do in a few weeks something? I'm looking at him like, oh my God. I'm like, okay, no pressure. Polish icon, right? Everybody looks at me already because I'm Polish, but not. And I came into this country and changed the scene. And people were like, okay, interesting lady. And I'm like, that's a lot of responsibility. The Polish icon, 60,000 people in a few weeks, right? When I go out, he never changed his team in 20 years. So we started working. And I said, okay, you know what? If we have a few weeks, I'm coming over. We work every day. I'm in camp. We're doing a full camp, every sparring, every pad work, everything. So I put a lot of things to the side. I said, let's do it right. So we did. Long story short, he walked out, and he did performance of his life. He said, I never felt better. I felt free. And he said, you took all the heaviness of me. He said, I felt light and so mindful. I could hear everything, see everything. He was like, it was me. And he got really emotional about this, because he said, I finally was free. In so many years, I was looking for this moment to feel me, without the demons, without this mind wandering, without the doubts, without the stress, without the breathlessness, right? Because then we regulated the autonomic nervous system. We worked on mindfulness. We worked on attention training, right? I taught him in a very short time, right? Which was tough, to get a different relationship to his thoughts, right? To navigate through this chaotic mind and this dysregulated nervous system. And we did it. We landed on point. And this on point, look, that's what mental skills training or really good psychology can do. It's not magic, but it can bring you in the zone of optimum performance or functioning, right? Of course, sometimes it happens better or less, but in that moment, and he was flying. And just this, and after the fight in the cage with 60,000 people, and he looked at me, and that was one of the most beautiful moments of my career. He looked at me, this big man, he said, you, Daria, you, right? And he got like the tears in his eyes, and I said like, okay, later, right? Let's talk later. But
wow, that's sorry, go ahead.
But see, sorry, but man, this is what we live for. This is what we live for. That someone who's 43 years, legendary, can feel at least once, even if it at least once, and everybody should feel it once, who we are, without our limiting beliefs, without that dysregulation, without that whole bullshit programs and conditioning. And that definitely it's one it made me really believe even more that what I'm doing is the right way for me.
Hey everyone, quick favor to ask. Did you know that nearly 80% of the people tuning in right now aren't subscribed yet? That subscribe button down below is what powers me every week to keep putting out these podcasts. Big shout out and thank you to everyone that's been supporting me for this. I couldn't do it without you. If you're enjoying the content, please subscribe below. It means the world to me. And for everyone supporting me, thank you so much. Now back to yeah, and KSW is a no joke promote arguably one of the best promotions, the best promotion in Europe, if not one of the top global promotions. And so being on that type of stage for anyone as a coach, as an athlete, even as a commentator, it's got to be nerve wracking. So I can only imagine. And one of the things you've talked about, and I've looked through some of your other content and whatnot, are there any common mental barriers that you're seeing with these athletes, and how are you addressing those?
One I think in all of us is the fear of other people's opinions. Definitely, right? Social judgment, the judgment of others. It's such a big fear in us because we are, and I don't remember who said that, but a very good psychologist said that because it's true. We are actually fundamentally social, and we think we kind of live as individuals. We're not individuals who are social. We are fundamentally social. And that's why, of course, the fear of other people's opinion is such a strong factor in our lives. And it's such a limiting factor. Look how many times we ask ourselves when we want to go out with something, ooh, what will they say? What will they think? And in athlete, that's a very, very common limiting factor. And
well, I mean, sorry, and not just cut you off real quick. I mean, I see that just in anyone too. I'm talking like UFC commentators. I have a friend who just brought that up the other day, and he's you see him on the screen and you're like, this guy's got it all together. He's slick, he's Debenoir, he's got great, but his profile's rising. And it's funny what's been impacting people, and I'd love for you to talk on this too, is social media, because now he's seeing all the comments, he's hearing them more, and as his profile is rising, there's more haters. And I was just trying to address that with him, so I'm curious to get your thoughts on that too.
You know, so when you talk about the judgment, right, the opinions of others, look what goes behind it, right, or goes with it. Is first when you're so scared about the judgment, right? You're under control of other people, right? They control your life, right? That's one thing. If you get aware of this, you're like, wow, okay, crazy. Then another thing is, of course, failure becomes like an ego death, right? It's the ego. So with that goes all the work around the ego, right? What's your persona? What did you build, right? What is that ego? So stripping off sometimes, not sometimes, right? That's the work just to strip off to understand, okay, who is the true you? What is your ego, right? What is the persona you build? What is the true self? That's very deep psychological work, but very essential, right? You need to know your true self, which then goes together with purpose. Right? So I work with my athletes a lot of like, okay, your purpose orientation, because of course we're, as I said before, we're performance oriented because it's a competitive sport. We go there to win the fight, right? To fight and be the best. Otherwise, why would you be in the UFC? Just to participate? Definitely not. But it is so connected with self-doubts, with everything, with all the psychological issues. Most of them built on this, right? Self-esteem, right? It's all built on this. If your attention, if your, let's say, environment is stronger than your core values and your inner purpose and your true self, if you didn't work that out, right? If you're not very sure who you are, who you want to be, and what's your vision, right? So your vision has to be always bigger than the environment, and that's a very active process, and that's a process you have to continue every day to work on, because the environment is extremely strong, right? It's almost like pressure, and you have to be like, no, right? Constantly coming back. That's why now mindfulness and attention training comes so much into it, right? Redirecting your attention constantly, right, on that vision. So I would say that definitely our so evolutionary ingrained fear of other people's opinion, with that goes a lot of other psychological issues and limitations or limits we have. And once you address this, you go through such a very, very deep process of, right, of finding yourself, finding your purpose, defining your core values, right, like creating your vision. When the vision is stronger than your environment, then you're basically good to go.
Wow. I mean, that's that judgment of people is just what drives us, right? And I've seen it personally. I played American football in college, competed nationally in Taekwondo, even just Muay Thai. We want to push ourselves for fear of looking weak, even just to ourselves, right? Because like, oh, you can do more. You can always do it. I had a strength and conditioning coach who coaches like Ian Gary, Paul Hughes, Ariana.
Yeah, I know Paul also, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And so the Brandon Gallagher, the guy who does like strength conditioning coaches with them, coaching with them, one of the things that he talked about, and I've had to implement myself, is knowing when to push yourself and knowing when to just relax and do the work. Like you're strengthening yourself. I have knee issues, so I do a lot of things that strengthen my legs, but don't necessarily, I'm not squatting 600 pounds. I'm doing just body weight stuff, and I might only do 5 reps, and feel, I have to feel good with that. Can you just talk a little bit about how mindfulness is helping in injury prevention and recovery as well in combat sports?
In general, like mindfulness, attention, awareness, right? This is all, that all leads to mind-body connection, right? Because you are in the present moment. You need to, as an athlete, but also as a non-athlete, right? It's a good thing if your mind and body are in the present moment connected, right? When you embody it, right? And your mind and your body need to work together in order to bring yourself into peak performance or get the best output, right? When the mind is constantly mind wandering in the past and in the future, right? When you lose, when you do not control your attention, which we partly all of us are kind of this, right? But if you don't train that skill of holding attention, but also, and that's even more important, redirecting, because mind wandering is a natural thing. It's like how quick are you aware and redirect, and how much are you embodied? How much do you feel your body? Right? That's also skill integration wise. When you're present, I see it in striking, right? You can 10,000 times do the same movement, but when you're not present, when you're not aware, you will not integrate. The 10,000 rule here is not applicable, right? You can do it in much faster time or shorter time, or sometimes longer for more complex things. But you're definitely much more effective, right? When you're super present, when you're embodied, right? You feel it, you integrate it also in the whole system, not just the movement, just the whole system. That's body awareness or mind awareness, and it's what the best athletes in the world understand. You cannot, of course, I mean, sometimes we have the shark tanks, right? We spar and it's all blood, sweat, blood, and it is. But that's honestly, it's the smallest part of the top elite training. Like you have to go to this, like really the absolute red zone, of course, right? Super stress and then deal with it, of course. But if you constantly in the sympathetic dominance, right? If you're constantly in fight flight, but then you don't integrate skills as well, and you do not feel, right? MMA is about feeling, right? Striking, especially not wrestling too. You should ask Gamrot. He's better than me in this. But
Yeah, I might have a different view on that. Yeah.
No, he does probably a similar view, but definitely I'm speaking here about striking because that's my wheelhouse. But so like in striking, when you start feeling this distance, right? When you start feeling and flowing, right? That optimal state. We're not even speaking about flow state because it's such an elusive state sometimes. But let's say the optimal state, right? When you're in optimal state, that's when you're creative, innovative. That's when you start flowing and your mind and body is connected and you feel it like, I just saw it, boom, I reacted, I saw it, right? That doesn't come so greatly so often when you're constantly in sympathetic dominance, when you're constantly in this warrior mindset, fighting. So for injuries, but also skill integration, the whole regeneration also, not just in the training, but also around the training, right? There's a moment, and I work with my athletes a lot on this. There's a moment where you're on the mat and 100% focus, hard training. But then there's a moment you come off the mat and you need a reset. I do not bring the training into the day. right? Because you'd be burnt out. And that's what a lot of people, a lot of fighters, when they're long enough in their career, that's what happens. They're burnt out. They're not physically. There are injuries. Okay, we all that's our sport, right? The body is tired a little. It's the nervous system and the mind and the brain, because you didn't reset, right? You took many athletes, like when they have a bad sparring, they 24 hours, they can't sleep at night, because look how it's all connected, right? The nervous system is acting out. You might, if you don't have mental skills training, your mind goes to places where definitely you don't want it to be, and you don't regenerate mind, body, spirit, nothing. So you come the next day and you feel more tired, and you feel more tired, and you feel more, then of course you do more mistakes. Reaction time is down, anticipation is down, right? Eyes, you don't see anything. And that's usually when athletes for longer in their career, many of us get to that point, right? Because we don't take care about that stuff. So it's so mindfulness, but also attention training, awareness, the whole psychology, right? The whole mindset is so crucial to have a long and successful and conscious career.
Well, last question I want to ask you, as someone who competed at the highest levels as a professional athlete yourself, one of the things that I run into having friends who are athletes coming, not necessarily at the end of their careers, but seeing the end of their careers. And for someone like you who's transitioned to not just striking coaching, because that's what you know, but also another level of the mental performance of that. What would be the piece of advice that you would give to people as they make that transition out of their fighting career into being that next stage of themselves, whether that's a mental piece of advice or like a how you approach that change? Because obviously you probably had that same moment, right? Where you're like, I'm not going to be stepping into a ring and bludgeoning other people anymore. What is next for me? I'm just curious to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah. Curiosity and a beginner's mind. Like to approach everything in life with curiosity. For me and for my athletes, for my clients, that it's just right. When we're curious, we're open-minded. When we're open-minded, there will be always ways coming up. Things will come up, perspectives. You meet people. With that mindset, it goes so much beauty. And with that mindset comes passion into your life and purpose, right? And you redefine your purpose. You're redefining yourself. So with curiosity and the beginner's mind comes this positivity also, and I think that's a super strong base to do all kinds of transitions, because right, life is change. It's constantly, we all in transition constantly, right? That's one factor we know. Nothing ever stays the same. Time goes forward, things will change. So I think the approach of being curious, open-minded, connecting, reaching out. I live like this. I really love humans. Although, like everybody else, I got hurt, right? And I had my fair share of pain as a human. But that curiosity and that ability to connect is always bigger in me. And that vision, right? I have a vision, and I think that is so important to connect. And sorry, my phone was again.
No worries. I know this is a great conversation too. I'm loving this. I know we've gone over a little bit too, so always happy to have these longer ones as well.
Yes, so definitely that curiosity to reinvent yourself, to redefine yourself, to question your vision and your purpose. It's one of the most important things for us humans to have. And I had to learn it the hard way. It was my path, although it looks like when we talk now it was so easy, it was not. My path was very, very painful. And that's why I give my heart to life, because I don't want, sometimes I wish I would have had maybe someone like me, a coach that leads you. And that's my biggest motivation. And I think that my fighters or my people, hopefully everybody who works with me feels that.
Well, that's why I love these conversations. And as much as I love interviewing the athletes, I really love interviewing the people who are behind the scenes, who are helping the athletes, helping elevate the sport, helping create champions. And this has been an amazing conversation, Daria. I know I have a lot of friends who will get value out of this. I hope many people hopefully will watch this and be like, am I being present? Am I being mindful? And so I'm just so thankful for you joining me today from across the world, and really looking forward to getting this out and getting everyone's thoughts on it.
Yeah, I appreciate that also because people like you give people like me a platform to talk about what we're passionate about. So I'm very, very grateful every time when someone invites me. Thank you for giving me the space to speak.
Well, thanks again. You have a wonderful day and look forward to talking again soon.
Thank you.